Hello, it is Wednesday the 25th of June. I hope everyone's doing okay. I apologise about my dog snoring. Please don't leave me nasty comments. So, as we head into month end, normally, in stock indexes, especially with the easing of the stress in the Middle East, and I think what's really clear now is, the markets didn't really react when it was just Israel and Iran fighting each other. But the real nervousness was the US getting involved, and now that Trump has made it kind of really clear that he does not want to get involved, I think that even if they go back to fighting each other, or that that kind of fear has gone now, we've moved on from it, and month end now, and month end window dressing and risk on in stock indexes is a much bigger factor, at least until the beginning of next week. Also on Friday, we have got a really, really big quarterly options expiration in the spot Bitcoin options market at Deribit. We've got 14 billion in options expiring, which is quite big. It's also because it's a quarterly as well as a month end. I think there's like 141,000 Bitcoin options contracts expiring, and 81,000 or 82,000 of them are calls, and it looks at least like 20% of them expiring calls are in the money, which is pretty good. People will be doing well. One thing that if people are talking about that's quite interesting from last year is that the put call, so the number of puts versus the number of calls ratio has increased. Last year it would hang around 0.5, it would be kind of even, and it's gone up to 0.72. Normally that would be a little bit of a bearish signal, more people are buying puts than before, but it seems to be that from the writing about this, it seems to be that quite a lot of those are cash secured puts. In other words, an option strategy is being employed to make money from selling puts if you are bullish Bitcoin. And that seems to be what's going on, which is therefore, although the put call in ratio is increased, it's not actually the bearish signal that it could be. Either way, we are potentially set up for some volatility as we go into month end. And if that increase in put options was people nervous buying puts rather than that being an option strategy being deployed, potentially that could increase the volatility. Either way, it's a really, really big move. The Deribit options that expire at the last Friday of the month expire at the UK Open, and quite often on the last Friday of the month, that timing, so it's 8 a.m. in the UK UTC, and after that quite often will be the high or the low for the day. So that's what we're going to be watching out for on Friday. And we've also got quite a large number of ETH options, so I'm going to take a look at those two charts and see where we are. Certainly it's super bullish in Bitcoin, and I posted a chart earlier with this bull flag that we're seeing. Now let's first of all, somebody asked me, where do these levels come from? And I'm going to go out to a monthly chart here, and I'm going to put it in logarithmic. So that means that we can see all the waves that we're counting, because there's quite a recognized pattern where let's take it all the way down here, where wave one, so if we say that this was our going all the way back to 2010, this was 5 waves up for our wave one, and then we had 3 waves pullback, and then we had 5 waves up for our wave 3 in the middle. And if we put it back, take it out of log scale and fit it to the chart, you can see that that's not a crazy pattern. This is 1, 2, 3. Wave 3 was much bigger. We can move this here, and you can see this was 2.618 of wave 1, a very normal ratio for wave 3, and here we are potentially in wave 5. Now, I said before, it had looked like we had done 5 waves up for wave 5 here, doesn't it? Quite often in crypto, though, wave 5 extends quite a long way. And so this is a little bit of a tricky zone around these highs. But if we measure the mathematical and fib relationship between this wave 1 and this wave 5, you can see that we went sideways at the 2.618 level, and we went sideways at this 4.236 fib level, which was at 99,364. And I think as long as we hold above 99,364, we're on target for this next measured fib target up here at 151, and that's where that comes from. And so we're still doing this wave 5, and it may be that we're not done, which would be very good news. So this is where my target comes from this flag, as long as we hold above 99,364. Now, sometimes with these patterns, you'll do a big correction and it'll end up just being a 3-wave equal measured move. And if we were to do that here, we break out of our flag, and our flag pattern target then becomes 135, not 151. And, we could end up doing a much bigger sideways pattern here. So that's where my targets come from. Let's talk about this pattern here and this flag pattern and where it comes from. Now, when you're in a correction or a trend channel like this, or quite often in a declining wedge, the fib ratios between each swing are very often duplicated. So if I look at the first swing here from this high to low, our target here was this 886 from this high to low. So if we repeat the same to stay in the channel here, that 886 fib level comes in at 109,200, 109,000 up here. That's what I've drawn. Now, I prefer, when you look at a big 3-wave move, to put my fibs over both swings, because it's a correction like this. And when you make a perfect textbook ABC like we did here, your first target is the 786 fib of this 3-wave move. And so our first target becomes 109,047 based on that fib pattern. So that lines up with that 886 from here. So I would say in this channel that we're in, this 109,000 then becomes really important resistance. And that's going to be the level that we need to break above and hold above if we're going to break out from this flag pattern. Now, when you draw it like this, when you draw a flag like this, the risky area, if you're wrong, is always a retest of the previous highs. Because if this is not the bullish flag that you think it is, and it's actually just a sideways range, then a retest of the high that we made in May is going to be a tricky level to get through. So we've got tricky levels to get through here at 109,000 and 112,000, basically 111,965, and then above them, yeah, we're kicking with gas, and that's a breakout. It's a breakout above the highs from 2024 as well. So that's where my levels come from for Bitcoin and what I'm looking at. And this swing that we're in, if we're going to get a little bit of a pause or a pullback, I expect it to come at 109,000 or slightly above. And one thing, whenever you draw horizontal levels or even trend lines, third touches of trend lines very often are false breakouts, and you expect them to stay in. So I would expect this to be a little bit of a false breakout here, and then we'll see what happens. And if I put the fib levels back in from this high to low, because I see kind of fib levels as a trend support, if we do get knocked back here and have a little bit of an end of week pullback, if we're going to keep going higher, I would not want to see this back underneath 106,600. That's going to be key trend support then for Bitcoin. So important resistance first, next at 109,000 for Bitcoin, and that's what I'm looking for. If we do the same for ETH, which I keep trying to buy the dip in because I would like to see ETH catch up. Here we've been in this funny sideways range in ETH, And if Bitcoin breaks out, is ETH going to keep going higher? I have to say, we were in this sideways range. If this was a false breakdown here, and we're going to keep going higher, we need to break back above the middle of the range, 50% from this high to low, and back above this weekly 200 moving average. And in terms of bullish reversals, we're not quite there yet. We've had this really nice bounce, but this is what we want to see really if we're going to go higher. And if we look at it on the daily, this 50% level and these daily moving averages here in the middle could be a little bit tricky. We need to be a little bit careful. On this pullback then, let's see where we go, because this is another one where if we measure from the lows, I'd like to call this as 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in which case our trend support comes in at the bottom of this wave 4 here, and our trend support comes in if we measure from this low to high at this 236 fib level. And if we don't hold that level, which is exactly where we are, so on a close, we don't really want to close underneath 2,395, and intraday I really don't want to trade underneath this swing low here, because if we are, we're going to see a bigger pullback, and it means this swing is complete. Ideally, I'd like us to find some support here and turn higher in ETH, but it's still underperforming, unfortunately, Bitcoin. But I think that that could be a lot to do with month-end flows and this huge options expiration that could give us volatility into Friday UK European Open time. So in all of the altcoins charts, my favorite at the moment chart setup is in FART coin, and I will talk about why. When I look at this lovely move in FART coin, for me, we could argue this is 5 waves up. This to me looks like a textbook, very nice 3-wave correction. My favorite correction is a 3-wave correction back to a 50% level. And this is what's interesting about FART coin. If I measure from the high that we made in January to this low, we reversed here at the 50% level in the middle. Mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. So if we do this here, then this 50% should be where we found support, and that's exactly what we have done here in FART coin. So we've done a 3-wave pullback to a 50. I'm going to tidy up this so we don't have too many lines. We'll just mark that 50% level. There we go. Take that 61.8. So underneath that 61.8 is wrong, where we're wrong. But we've got support from this 50% perfectly. So I'd like to see a bottoming pattern, and then from here, we're going to look for that 50% level to be our target on the upside. And if we can hold above it, that's us going up again. In FART coin, 1.22. So we're not there yet. A bearish move would look like 3 waves up, like an equal measured move into this level, and then a reversal at that 50% level. But if we can break above it, then we've broken that pattern of 50% back, and then 50% back, and 50% back, and that would say we were on our way up again. And if we draw this as a flag, just like Bitcoin, we'd be looking at the top of this flag for initially that kind of first false breakout, and then something like this. So we can break out above this level here, we'd be looking for something like that, and on our way up again. So FART coin for me, based on this really nice textbook 50% back bounce from the daily 200 moving average, is probably my favorite chart. But if we're going to see weakness and pullbacks in these altcoins, we're probably looking for a double bottom or something like that. But when I look at this on the 4-hourly here, from the low that we made last weekend, this is again another one with lovely 5 waves back. So we could only see a shallow pullback here in FART coin, maybe back to this swing low, back to these 4-hour moving averages before we continue higher. If we look at that on the hourly, that's the hourly 200 moving average I'd be looking at. and that round number 1, which quite often works really well in altcoins. So I'd like to see FART coin on this pullback hold that round number 1, and then next swing higher to 1.21, and then above 1.21 we've broken out of this kind of sideways correction. And so yeah, probably my favorite chart in the alts at the moment, and the one I'm watching for an entry here on a pullback. Good luck.